In this video, I'm going to tell you all you need to know about past life regression, going back to events in a previous life to understand how that's impacting you in your current life. I'm Jonathan Butler, and I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, a rapid transformational therapist, and I'm founder of Help for Hypnotherapists. Now, regression is a big subject. I can't cover all of it in this video. So if you'd like to not only learn what I'm telling you today, but learn more about this subject and wider things about the fascinating, powerful thing that is hypnotherapy, please do click that subscribe button now to make sure you're getting all of those alerts coming straight to you, that you don't miss anything on this amazing, fascinating subject. So first of all, let me talk about what is regression. Quite simply, as the name suggests, regression is about going backwards. It's about asking your mind, your subconscious mind, that emotional part of your mind where you store emotions, where you store associations with things that influence how you think, feel, and act today. It's about going back to how that all began. It's about going back to how that all began, because our emotional mind, that subconscious mind, where we have feelings, where we have those emotions, will influence us in everything we do. And many of us who've been through therapy, if you've been to counselling or talking therapy or other things, you might understand why you have a certain issue. You might understand why you lack confidence. You might understand why you're anxious. You might understand why you have a pattern of going into unhelpful, bad relationships. You might understand that rationally, but it doesn't actually help you move on and stop doing it, because the only way you can change your behavior, break those habits, is by actually dealing with the thoughts you have in the first place. And how you do that is by going back to understand the root cause of what you do. So as hypnotherapists, we take people back. Well, not all hypnotherapists do this. Some hypnotherapists do this, and in RTT hypnotherapy, we do this as a core part of what we do, because what we believe is that you can't fix what you don't understand, and you certainly can't try and fix what you think subconsciously with your rational mind by talking about it. You have to ensure that your subconscious mind feels it can let go. It can let go of the fear. It can let go of the anxiety. And often that's simply by helping it realize that it's no longer in the same time, the same place, the same situation that it was when you took on board those fears, beliefs about yourself. And how we do that is by regression. We take your mind back to how the issue all began, identify that root cause, and then we can help your mind let go. We can understand really what the problem is, not just guess what it might be by what you've told us, but really understand what is that emotional thing, what is that emotional trigger that makes you feel, act the way that you do. So regression is incredibly powerful. I use this all the time in my therapy. And as I said before, that's why we do it, because you can't fix what you don't understand. Regression can help you get to the root cause of the underlying issue that you're having problems with in life today. And regression is done in hypnosis. And hypnosis is simply an slightly altered state of mind. It's a very natural state of mind, but where your mind is able to remember things that it can't normally remember. It's a state of mind where your mind can focus on dealing with an issue, but it's also a state of mind like you have when you're a young child, where you are incredibly receptive to information and suggestion. So basically, you can rewire, reprogram your mind, feel differently, think differently, and act differently. You can't do that in talking. You can only do that in that altered state of mind that is that relaxing, pleasant state of mind that it is to be in hypnosis. So there are two types of regression. There are two types of regression that I'm going to talk about. And the main type of regression that we use as hypnotherapists is regression to childhood memory. So it's present life memories, okay? So it's present life memories, because there's a lot of evidence that suggests that how we think, feel, act as adults is the direct result of our experiences, our environment, what we were surrounded with when we were children, between the ages of 2 and maybe 8 years old. That is when we kind of form a blueprint of our thoughts about ourselves, of who we are, of what's available to us, of our value, of how lovable we are, of what we think about ourselves. And that does create like a template for your life, okay? And there's a lot of evidence that tells us that. So as hypnotherapists in current life regression, going back to childhood memories, that is really, really important. So if somebody comes to me with anxiety and they want to solve it, often we'll go back to childhood memories, and I ask them to go back to memories, and they'll go back to the memories that are relevant under hypnosis, because your subconscious mind knows. And that may be memories of having an anxious mother. It may be traumatic events that you experience. It may have been not feeling safe. It might have been being abandoned. It might have been any kind of thing that could trigger you to feel more anxious than is normal. And your mind gets stuck there. Your mind gets stuck there because as a child, what becomes familiar to you as a child becomes normal through adulthood. Even though you're in a very different situation, you have different power, different knowledge, different opportunities, but we get stuck with that. So that present life regression is what typically RTT therapists and some other hypnotherapists will use, because it helps us to get to that root cause and really set people free. So we do that root cause analysis. And root cause analysis, for those of you who are engineers, will be familiar with that. And it's no coincidence I use that engineering term, because this is not woo-woo, it's not mumbo jumbo. This is based on solid neuroscience. You can't fix what you don't understand. If your car goes wrong, you can't just keep dealing with the symptoms. You've got to understand what it is that's actually causing it if the same thing happens over and over again. Deal with the root cause, then lots of things, everything falls into place. So I hope you got the message there, that understanding about that present life regression, and that actually the reasons for doing that, and actually that this is not mumbo jumbo, this is not woo-woo stuff. This is actually based upon solid scientific evidence and what we understand about neuroscience. And it helps people to get unstuck, and it helps us to do it quickly. So let's now talk about past life regression. A lot of people are interested in this. A lot of people ask me to do this. It's actually one of those searched terms for hypnotherapy, is about past life regression. So people are really interested in it, and it's understandable that people are interested in it, because it's fascinating, it's interesting, the idea that we could go back and understand our previous lives. And I guess all of us want to think that we were what we were in our previous life. Maybe we were, I don't know, maybe we were a fighter pilot, maybe we were some kind of hero, maybe we were royalty, maybe we lived in a different place. Whatever it was, it's quite exciting, it's quite interesting to think of that. It's very, very exciting. So of course, we'd like to know that. So past life regression is about regressing, but it's about regressing back to a previous life. And why do people do this? Well, see, some people do it because it's interesting, but there are strands of therapists who believe that what's happening, what we're struggling with, what we're limited by in our current life is what's happened in our previous life. There are people who believe that, and they're passionate about that, and they have their reasons for believing that. So they believe that they need to do regression to go back to a previous life, to understand what happened in that life that's making them feel the way now. So maybe it could be that you've got a problem with money. In a previous life, you were so poor, you were in the poorhouse, you couldn't feed yourself, that you've come into this life with this expectation, these views around money. So that is the philosophy around past life regression. So is it real? Is it real? I can certainly tell you that present life regression is real. Present life regression is absolutely real. I'll give it one of the most amazing examples I've seen of that is with a client of mine who went back to some childhood memories. And one of his memories that he had was of being in a room and looking at a newspaper when he was about 5 or 6 years old. And he was able to identify the date of that newspaper. And he was able to go to the football scores in that paper and say exactly what the scores were on that day. And he could even remember, it had in there some of the goal scorers as well. He could remember that exactly. And after this, we both went and looked this up. And he got every single one of these football scores from like the, I think it was the early 70s, absolutely correct on that day. And so this really is a real thing. People go back to some very early life memories as early as being in the womb when something happens that's significant at that time. So that is definitely real. You can validate that it's real. We know it's real. And therefore, it's really effective and helpful for people because people can understand that it is real. And when they understand that is real and they understand that is the root cause, they know that they're focused upon the right thing and they are significantly increasing their chances of getting better, of moving forward. So if you'd like to go back and know whether you were Abraham Lincoln or whoever you were, Winston Churchill or whoever you were, whoever you'd like to have been in your previous life, can you do that? Is that possible? Is it real? Well, simple answer is, who actually knows? Because I do know and I can see that current life regression is real. We go back to memories that we know are real, that we can rationalize that they are real. If you're going back to past life memories, how do you know? How will you ever know? How will you ever prove that that is real? So I've got no doubt that people do and can go back to some memories of being in a past life. But is that just a vision that they're creating? And if they're working with a therapist who believes in past life hypnosis, past life regression, are they planting suggestions that are actually going to make it seem more real for that person? I'm not saying they would do that deliberately, but given their belief that this is a real thing, it's possible that that can happen. But how will you ever know? And then, of course, you will have some people who want to believe it so much they will believe it. They won't feel the need to justify it. Some people won't want to question that. That's maybe part of their spirituality or their beliefs or whatever. And that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine if people want to do that. But for me, I believe it's something people can do. It's definitely interesting. It can be a fun thing to do. But for me, and I'm sorry to people who believe in this, but it is not serious therapy. It's fun. For me, it's like in the realms of, it's like clairvoyance, fortune telling. It's kind of fun. It's interesting. But really, you should not be making decisions based upon this about your direction. You shouldn't be making judgments about what you need to do in your life based upon this, because there is not enough evidence to prove it. Now, I'd love to understand and believe that it's real, because in what I do, I am incredibly open-minded. I believe there's a lot of things that we don't know, we're learning all the time. So there are many things that we don't know and we don't understand. But hypnotherapy is based on proven science, based on lots of evidence that things work. And current life regression, we know, takes us back to issues that do impact that blueprint that we're given about how we think, feel, and act. And that impacts us later in life. And so present life regression is really, really powerful for understanding why you do what you do, helping set your mind free, and planting those suggestions that you want to have about how you want to think and feel about yourself in the future. So to help your mind understand that instead of being anxious, nervous, you can be confident, relaxed. You can stop living in fear and live in opportunity. Hypnosis can do that, and regression, present life regression, can help you to do that. Past life regression shouldn't be taken too seriously. I think it can potentially be dangerous for people if they want to start believing that what's happening in their life now is a result of things that happened in the past life. How are you going to fix that? You can't change your previous life. And even I am open-minded to believing that past life regression, it is a real thing, that our past lives do influence us. And I'm open-minded to understanding that. However, people that I see typically, I think pretty much most people, their priorities should be focusing upon dealing with the issues you've had in your current life. Deal with the issues you've had in your current life. That is going to be your quickest route to progressing. If you've dealt with your issues in your current life and you still want to go and do some past life stuff, then that's great. That's, you know, fun. Go and do that. But it's like you've got to work on the basis of what we know, what we understand, and what works. So I hope you found that interesting. And this is an incredibly interesting subject. If you want to do past life regression, do tread very carefully. I would say don't take it too seriously, and really think very hard about, should you be trying to solve your problems from a past life? If you believe in past life, that's great. But really, what's going to get you the most benefit? Is it dealing with your problems in your current life or in your past life? What really do you need to deal with? So deal with your current life issues first. It will get you quick results. We know it's real, and there is lots of proven evidence that that works. Regression is a very, very powerful tool. And I just wanted to make it really clear, because I do talk about self-hypnosis. I teach people in other videos how to do self-hypnosis. Doing regression is something that should only be done by a trained professional who knows how to do that process with you, to do it the right way, and who knows how to deal with whatever things may come up. It's a very helpful thing to do. It's a very powerful thing to do. And a good therapist, doing a regression under a good therapist, under a methodology like RTT, will, for many people, be one of the most powerful, life-changing things that they ever do. So would you like to know more about regression? Please then do sign up now, subscribe to my channel, like it, comment, share, make sure that you are getting all my updates about regression and about all the other fascinating parts of what is hypnotherapy and RTT therapy. So sign up for that. And if you'd like to know more, if you're looking for help specifically, I'm a practicing hypnotherapist and RTT therapist, and you can find out more at my website, which is myfitmind.co.uk. Thanks for listening, and see you soon in the next video.